Hello again, and thanks for checking out THiNK Media TV, helping you move further, faster in media. Today I've got an awesome interview with Tim Schmoyer. Now, Tim has been in youth ministry for 11 years and longer when it comes to just all those volunteer days. He started studentministry.org in 2005, and now that blog gets about 80,000 impressions a month. He put out an ebook a little while ago that's had over, at least just from him, has had 160,000 downloads as well. It's been distributed elsewhere. He's also coming out with a book that's published by Zondervan that comes out February 2011. But the reason THiNK Media TV wanted to talk to Tim is because he's been crushing it on YouTube.
Crushing? That's cool. I haven't ever told me that before, but I enjoy it though.
Yeah, you really, you've been crushing it because if we think about your niche, youth ministry is not big on YouTube,
no.
And yet you're still getting hits, you're getting views. In fact, he's already a YouTube partner, and to the envy of many other YouTubers out there. But anyways, Tim, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I just woke up a little bit ago, but hopefully my voice is kind of cleared up since then.
Yes. Now you're over in Minnesota. What's the weather like?
It was raining yesterday. Today looks like it's just windy and cold, as it usually is in Minnesota.
All right, well that's encouraging because it's, as it is in Seattle too, it's always raining, windy, and cold, and so
yeah,
we can share our depression together.
Yeah, I'm mostly gonna be inside today, I think.
Well, I'm glad to have you on the show, Tim. And let's just start off with some questions. Actually, our topics today are we're going to be talking about media resources for youth pastors and leaders to help get them kind of doing some of the things that you're doing, whether that's creating videos and blogging and stuff like that. So the first question is, how long have you been doing studentministry.org? And how did that thing, how did it kind of all get started? How did it start in your heart and also your skills? I mean, how'd you get
well, those are probably two separate stories. I'll hit the skills one first because that one's older. When I was shortly after I was born, I had a tumor in my left ear. And I had lots of surgeries and stuff, but as you know, in your ear, after it's been worked on properly, like your equilibrium's all thrown, you can't walk a whole lot. So there was some times in my childhood where I couldn't really walk around, run around. I was just like, I'd sit down, I was in front of a computer, and back then it was Windows 3.1, and I was just fascinated with like the screensaver. And then we had like Netscape Navigator, remember Netscape? And it came out with like Netscape Composer.
Yep.
And it was basically, it's a real basic HTML editor, and our dial-up Prodigy internet gave us like 2 meg of free web space or something, which was more than I could ever use. And so that's how I got started, just learning like HTML and stuff like that. Well, fast forward to 2005, I just graduated from seminary, and I was not married, and I usually spent my time doing, like playing video games, Guild Wars to be specific, which I'm super pumped for Guild Wars 2 that comes out like pretty soon here. But, and I just didn't feel like playing, and I was like, what's up with that? So I was just poking around the internet, saw that timschmoyer.com was available, so I just registered it and threw WordPress on it, and just started blogging about dinner, laundry, stuff only your mom would want to read. And even then, I'm not sure she wanted to read it. She just did because she felt bad for you. So, I started blogging about that kind of stuff. But my passion is really youth ministry, and I just started writing about what I was most passionate about, just kind of naturally. And there weren't a whole lot of youth ministry blogs at the time, so I was commenting on there's only like a handful of us youth, guys out there blogging, so we kind of formed like this network unofficially. We're all commenting on each other's blogs, and it just started this open dialogue about youth ministry online. And it was kind of from there that it just grew, like unintentionally. I didn't set out to start like this great big website or anything. It just happened on its own. And as the audience continued to grow, I felt more and more responsibility to be a good steward, a good manager of what God was giving me. And so last year it switched. I didn't want it to be focused around me. I didn't want it to be like a Tim Schmoyer type of website. So I switched to the studentministry.org, took my picture off of the logo and that kind of stuff, and hoping to form it more into a community dialogue among youth workers, just having conversation about youth ministry. And that's kind of the direction I'm going with it, and where it all got started, kind of unintentionally.
Great. And now what can leaders expect to find? What resources would they find on studentministry.org?
Yeah, it's got resources. Obviously, like you mentioned, my ebook is there, 130 youth ministry tips and ideas. And I do like a freebie Friday. So every Friday, I just give a free download of something. I've kind of exhausted all my resources. So now it's going back to the community again, where there's the other youth workers who are contributing this stuff and offering for download, which is awesome. Most of it probably, though, is more along the lines of different youth workers, mostly myself, but there's others of us who are just thinking out loud about youth ministry, our struggles, our successes. Hey, I just tried this. This worked great for me. Or I have a question of this. How do you guys handle this? Or, every Monday there's also a live YM Talk, which is a live talk show I host every Monday, where the youth workers around the country call in, and we just have an open dialogue about different topics and issues in youth ministry, and just kind of supporting each other and working through a lot of these questions, especially now that youth ministry is changing so much, and I'm not really sure where the future of it's going, but that's another topic for another time, I guess.
Right. Okay, so now on your blog, it was text for the majority, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you've recently started doing video, and then your YouTube channel came out, and you're doing videos on there. When did video start for you?
Well, video started actually for me back in 2005 as well, and God Rocks, Yodrox was kind of my handle for everything back then. It's just horrible branding now, but I can't change it. So it was just like me, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm talking to my computer. It feels really weird type of stuff.
Right.
And I didn't really stick with it, honestly, back then. That's when it started. I did a couple of video blogs back then of my wife, who's my wife now, but we were dating at the time, and just would go out to eat, and I'd just take a camera with me and just have fun. But it wasn't until probably the past year or two, maybe a little bit more than a year and a half, I had to go look, but where I started video is a medium that I'm not really tapping into. It's much more personable a lot of times than text. You can see facial expressions, and we can, we get body language and all that stuff. So I started it probably around then, and it was mostly just me sitting in front of the webcam like I am now, just giving here's 5 suggestions I have for this issue in youth ministry, or 3, I think the one you mentioned you saw earlier before we started recording was 3 most underrated youth ministry resources that we don't use. It's like prayer, the Holy Spirit, and do you remember the other one? I don't remember what the other one was, but that's an older video.
Right.
Yeah, I can tell it impacted you.
I knew the prayer and the Holy Spirit one, but
yeah. So that kind of stuff, and that's where I got started. Now I'm kind of doing more fun things with green screens and stuff like that.
Cool. So, are you? How did you learn the video stuff?
With a pirated copy of Premiere. It was my brother's copy, though. It wasn't mine.
Yeah. Throw him under the bus.
Yeah, that's right. And I won't tell you who my brother is, just in case anyone's watching this who has any kind of legal authority. But none of us have any pirated stuff anymore. But that's how we got started back in 2004, or no, 5 or something where were we in 2010? Yeah, so 2005 or 6 or something. And so it was just a real basic video, and but then most of it switched to iMovie, and now I'm using Final Cut Express, but that's where I got started using.
And you're self-taught.
Totally, 100%. Well, yeah, self-taught, like watch tutorials on YouTube of how to do different things and effects and stuff. But yeah,
Right. Cool. Excellent. All right. So now here's the kind of big question with where things are going. It might be kind of two things, but how important do you think video and social media are for churches and youth ministries to be really using right now?
Right now, since you asked right now, it's totally important. But I think the reason why it's important right now is because of the future investment you're making in those platforms for the future when they're critical. So right now, like, you could get away with a church website that's all text-based, but when the time comes where that's no longer sufficient and people expect that there's real live people they can see on a screen and listen to and hear, that when that time comes, that's not the time to start learning about it, because you'll always be behind I don't want to use the word cutting edge, but behind, where you're supposed to be,
right,
if you don't start right now.
Right.
So I think that's probably one of the main reasons why it's important. But even right now, those same reasons are important too. People don't expect you maybe to have a welcome video on your church's website, but it's important to do that now, because that'll put you like head and shoulders above the rest and be like, oh, I can actually see Sean. And, so when I go to his church, I know who to look for. When I see him, I know who he is, or he felt real approachable and personable in that video. So now and that rubs off on the persona they feel about your church, So yeah, it's definitely important for that connection piece.
That was an exceptional point too, is that, like you said, of course, is the impact that those platforms make now, but biting the bullet and taking that learning curve now really gets you set up to be positioned right when the time comes in the future. So